Hi all, welcome again to Between the Lines. This is going to be my first actually useful post. Today we're going to be talking about publishing terminology. So a lot of this stuff that I'm going to be talking about, if you've been involved in the writing community for a while, you're going to think, duh, why is she talking about that? Well, this is to avoid when it comes time to query or submit to editors, submit to agents, that sort of thing. You don't want to send them something that says you have a standalone book series or a paranormal fiction memoir. Believe it or not, these are two things that I've gotten in queries in the past month, and they don't mean anything. So we're going to talk about things that actually do mean things, when to use them, what they mean, and basically you're going to sound like you're a genius. If you know nothing else about publishing, these terms that I'm going to go through in this section are the most important. They're the ones that will keep you from looking like a complete dunce. Fiction is something that's made up. Nonfiction is something that's not made up. Very simple. A novel is a book of fiction. Usually it's more than 50,000 words, and it's completely unnecessary to say you have a fiction novel because you can't have nonfiction novels. I don't care if it's book length. I don't care if it's poetry. I don't care if it's transcribing interpretive dance. If it's about your life, it's a memoir. Now, agents and publishers and the booksellers of the world are very, very guilty of perpetuating this confusion. Genre and category are completely different things, and each book has both a genre and a category. So, what's the difference? A category basically describes who the book is written for. So you've got middle grade, which is for kids 9 to 13 years old. But a middle grade book doesn't have to be about one thing. It can be about anything, as long as it's written for that particular audience. Same with young adult books, whereas a genre describes a little bit of what that book is about. So romance has a romance. Sci-fi has some sci-fi elements, usually something futuristic or something spacey, things like that. A thriller, obviously, has thrills. A mystery has a mystery. A book is something you buy in bookstores, it's something people read. A script is for a movie. You can't be querying something that's both. You have to pick one or the other. Usually, agents want books. A query letter is basically a cover letter for your book. It's the application that you send to agents or publishers to get them to want to actually request your book. It is not a sample of your book with a synopsis. It is basically an application. About 350 words of a paragraph that's punchy and exciting but doesn't give away all the secrets about your book. It's sort of like when you read the back cover of a book in a bookstore and it doesn't give everything away. That's what you want your first paragraph to be. Next, you want something about, your marketing ideas, and then you want a little bit of a bio. Editing. It's that thing that you do after you write your book and you realize, oh my god, I can't believe I wrote this crap, and editing is what makes it better. Well, in the editing world, there are many, many different types of editing, but the big two are developmental editing, which is basically the big idea. It's somebody looking at it and saying, well, I'm not really sure that I like this ending, or I'm not really sure that I believe this character's progression. And then there's copy editing, which is a line by line, very, very close look at it. Like, does this word work? Is this the best description? Is this really advancing the plot? All of those sort of things. And then we have proofreading. Proofreading is that very, very, very final step where somebody goes through and makes sure that everything fits and everything is consistent. There aren't any spelling errors, there aren't any grammatical errors, there's nothing wonky. All of that will make your book look really pretty and really professional. When people in the book world talk about Chicago, 99.9% of the time we're not talking about the city, we're talking about the style guide. It's what most books are published in, so it's a good idea to get a feel for what it is so it doesn't give your proofreader and editor a ton more work. This is something that we talk about a lot, especially with new authors. Showing and telling are both different ways to communicate action or emotion. Telling is generally pretty bad. It's telling us that a character is really angry, but it doesn't tell us why. It doesn't tell us, what he's thinking, what he's feeling, what he's doing. You can show us that his heart is beating faster, that he's clenching his hands, that he is grinding his teeth, that he is biting his lip to stop yelling at somebody, or that he's yelling at somebody. All of these things work together to communicate a certain idea that's actually a lot more thought-provoking and interesting for a reader than just saying he was angry. A standalone book is one that doesn't have any sequel. You can read it, be totally satisfied. It's not part of a trilogy or a series or anything like that. A series is a series of books that are all connected. They can share the same characters, they can share the same setting, the same plot even. For people that spend their time dealing with tens of thousands of words, we in the writing community are really big on abbreviations. So, here's a list of really obvious ones and some really not so obvious ones, so you actually know what the heck we're talking about on Twitter. Manuscript. Main character, which can, depending on your story, be a protagonist or an antagonist. Work in progress, so something that you haven't queried yet. An R&R is a revise and resubmit. It's what you get when editors or agents really, really like your book, but there's something really big that's stopping them from quite taking you on. So if you get an R&R, it's a really good thing. A CP is a critique partner. You hobnob together and you share your writing and you basically help each other edit. BCC is something you probably won't come into contact with until you're being published. It's back cover copy. So it's that 150 word blurb on the back of a book that will make you buy it. An ARC is an advanced reading copy. So right before a book comes out, they send ARCs to special fans to do reviews, for contests, for reviewers online, to places like Kirkus for starred reviews. And an ARC will get you the buzz you want before your book actually goes on sale to the public. A writing group is like a whole big party of CPs. It's a group of authors that get together either in person or online and they read sections of somebody's book and they critique it. Basically, it's a big support group to help edit and to help write and to improve every single way you can. Author bio. This is a little bit about you, about your writing, what groups you belong to, what you like to do in your time off. It is not called a CV, a curriculum vitae. A log line is basically your most exciting sentence in your query letter. It's that thing that will pull me in. It's that exciting moment where you go, oh, this author has a really unique voice and a really fun story. It's one sentence and it's punchy, snappy. Avoid flowery language, avoid giving away plots, just grab me. Editors and agents kind of mess with you on this one. When we're requesting partials, we request a certain number of pages. But if you write us a query letter and say, I have a book that's 237 pages, we're not going to know what that means and we're going to laugh at you. You see, different genres of books and different categories of books have certain guidelines for the books that will work. For instance, you're not going to want to see a 100,000 word young adult novel. So if you tell us a number of pages, we're not going to know what that means. We need to know words because we need to know if that fits within our own conventions and the conventions of the wider industry. Heat level is something that is used mostly in the romance and erotica genres, but is still important if you're writing a book, with sexy times and kisses and things. Um, it describes how steamy and intense your love scenes are, your sex scenes. So if, you're throwing around all sorts of raunchy stuff and you've got very, very intense descriptions of penetration, you have a high heat level. If it's a chaste kiss, it's a really low heat level. When people in the book world are critiquing your book or reviewing it or talking to you about it, giving you advice, they're going to use some words and concepts that don't necessarily mean what you originally would think that they mean or what they mean in real life. Conflict. Conflict is not necessarily a fight. It's not about events that happen in your book. What a conflict is normally how your main character and how your characters react to certain situations. It's tension, it's uncertainty, it's danger. It's all of these things. It's some sort of force that keeps your book going. Agency is something that's really, really important for main characters and villains and protagonists and antagonists. Um, Agency is your character's ability to act and to change the situations around them, to respond to those situations in multiple different ways. They have to be able to make choices. It's them making change versus being acted upon. Denouement is one of those really, really fancy French words. Really, it's that period after a book's climax. It's that thing that will wrap up your emotional ties in a book. It's that thing that explains what happened. So you know that like million pages at the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy when they go back to the Shire and everything happens and, Sam becomes a hero and all of that. That's a really, really, really long example of denouement. So the climax is when the ring gets destroyed. The denouement is the wrap up, the explanation, us knowing that our characters are either going to be okay or not okay, us really understanding what exactly happened in a climax. Well, that's my basic down and dirty terminology tips for those in the writing community. If you have any questions or if you want me to explain a couple of other ones, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me in between the lines today. I'll see you next Sunday.